everybody, welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me.
Down the inside,
Absolutely impossible scene.
This is for the win between these two. I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakely will dive to the inside.
We were robust, we got our elbows out.
Ronard takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Jarno Watmere is your champion.
Hello, good evening, and a warm welcome to you. Welcome, my good viewers, to PSGL F4. Yes, it's happened at long last, a special season to it as well. Season 40 has at long last started. Of course, two other tiers are already underway as we speak. F3 and F5 are currently running, and they're racing already quite hard. And now we're starting here with F4 alongside F2 as well. My name is Rob, aka Frostbreath. You'll know me from several other leagues, including the 24-hour charity. And joining me tonight is not Myth Sky, who should be the other F4 commentator. Instead, we've got tonight Jessica Ball, aka Jess. How are you doing?
Hello, Rob. Hello, everybody. It's a long time since I've done PSGL commentary, but I thought we needed a reserve tonight, so I thought I'd come back and give my presence on the PC side. And what a place to do it as well. Austrian Grand Prix. We were there in real life last week. We saw a fantastic race. It was originally known as the Austria Ring back in the day, the A1 Ring back in the 90s, but now we know it as the Red Bull Ring, another track designed by Herman Tilke. I love it. The drivers love it. What a place to start it, Rob.
I mean, it's the perfect track. It's fast, it's short, it's got only a few corners. There's like plenty of overtaking opportunities. Two particular good ones in the turns 3 and 4, of course. But there's many brave drivers, especially in this tier, I believe. So there will be overtaking opportunities in literally all of the other corners as well, because why not? Speaking of drivers, we've got a very, very exciting driver lineup for you here in F4. There's a lot of familiar names. For myself, I'm very happy to recognize some names returning after a long time of not seeing them race personally, so I'm very excited to see what they can do here in this lobby. Of course, plenty of reserves as well, but just since you're more experienced in PSGL tiers, which of these names do stand out for you?
To be fair, there are quite a few names that I'm very glad to see on the grid. Like, of course, Chana Kinchi. I've known him for quite a long time. There's a few names that I'm used to seeing in the F2 tier. But looking at the driver placements, Rob, we've got 16 tiers in PC, which is insane. So there's certain drivers that we would expect to be in F2, like on F124 or on F125, due to the fact there's so many tiers and there's only 20 drivers that can get into F2. You have to play some drivers in F3 and F4, and we've seen certain like Thomas Laminen, for example, and Valiant, Carlos. There's so many good drivers around there that could be in F3 and F2 in their day, but you know, I think anybody could do well around here, which makes it so fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I believe in terms of time trials, their times would have probably only a few hundreds, maybe even a few milliseconds apart in terms of which tier they would have been placed. So it must have been a really close call for many of these drivers. Speaking of lap times, we do know the pole lap time of F3, don't we, Jess? I believe it was a 1 minute 3.7.
I will get it up because
2.776 actually.
Yeah, 2.776. Believe it or not, though, which one thing I was quite surprised, but F5 was faster than F3 earlier, a 1 minute 2.6. So that is the time to beat. They got to beat a 1:2.6 here this evening, F4. But in Austria's a track where it's so close. It's one of those tracks where we could see an anomaly here. So we will probably see people who are faster in F4 than, say, F3 and F2. But when we go to other tracks on the calendar, which is a very great calendar, by the way, we will probably see quite a bit of a difference. But it is known to rain around here. Let's hope we do not get that. But every time I get in the commentary box around Austria, either qualifying or the race tends to rain. So I might bring a little bit of a curse here. But I do apologise.
Got a bit of a jinx spell over you.
Yeah, I remember, Rob, there was a threat of rain last week in real life, but that never happened.
No, instead it was a big heat wave, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. But I'm excited for this one. But we got 18 minutes of qualifying, the first on this new game, which brings so many different challenges with the tyre wear, predicted two-stop strategy for this race. I like this game already. I think loads of other drivers in F4.
Wow!
Oh my god!
Look at that! Your curse is still effective, even in this game.
F4 drivers, I do apologise in advance. I owe you a Kit Kat or a piece of chocolate. I would say something else, but this is a family stream.
Well, 20 drivers have gotten the surprise of their lives. There's a lot of rain coming down here in Austria, and as a Dutchman, that is no problem to me. We're used to rain, and there's at least one Dutchman here tonight. Damien Carril is here. I'm looking quickly at the list. He is Scoresman as well. 2 Dutchmen at the very least who will be used to the rain, and they will be trying to make the most of it. Of the others as well, of course, trying to make the most of this difficult situation. And of course, the big question is, will this be the same weather during the race? Because that might mean some changes in setups. Although I do know that Parc Fermé, I believe, just correct me if I'm wrong, is off. So that shouldn't really affect their qualifying setups too much.
Nope, it shouldn't. I know in PSGL, I think they turned it off. Yep, that is correct. I've just checked it. So, well done you. You've done your research. That's very great to see. So, I know for a lot of drivers with Parc Fermé off, they will have a quality setup and a race setup. But for some drivers, they might not be as knowledgeable in terms of shooting quality and race setups. So for some people it might be the same. They may want a dry setup in the wet if the race is going to be dry. It's going to be interesting. And from what my research has shown, both on certain races I commentated around here on the F125 game, which is one of the only tracks I commentated on, which is kind of helpful because I'm here tonight. We've seen in some cases where the inters on this game could be faster than the full wet, even in full wet conditions, which still amazes me to this day, but I wonder if that's going to be main true around this track. But we got 5 or 6 cars out there on circuit. I wonder, Rob, is it going to stay like this for the whole session? I wonder as
well. Yeah, I'm just checking the tires that people are using. Some of them decide to brave these circumstances on intermediate tires. Others have decided to go with the full wets for their first banker laps. I know the game to be a little bit of a troll, to be honest, in terms of which tire is the fastest. It usually says that the intermediates are 1 second faster, but I know by now that if the game does say that, it means the full wets are still faster. Only if the gap increases to more than 1.038 seconds or something like that, the inters are actually faster. I'm a little bit of a nerd on that one, to be honest. As Jeremy Gallagher has just gone around the first corner on an actual hot lap. It's quite busy out there already. Some drivers still hanging in the pit lane, trying to figure out the best setup possible for these circumstances, as Jeremy Gallagher sets an 18.032 as he goes through turn number 3. Of course, thus is one of the better overtaking opportunities, perhaps even in these circumstances, as one of the Saubers to the right moves out of the way. Then Jeremy Gallagher up to turn number 4, going downhill a little bit, of course, being in Austria. Whoa, as he drifts through the corner pretty much. It means you're going up and down the place all the time, because Austria is full of mountains, as we all know, and as you can see in the surroundings, this track is no different on that particular bit. The end of Sector 2 coming up, Jeremy Gallagher doing it very carefully indeed. This is, after all, just a banker lap. I feel like some of these drivers have filled their cars a bit up with a bit more fuel than they would normally use, just to make sure they can do several laps on the same set of tires, just to get a bit of a feeling around the track, get a bit of a dry line going, because I've seen that's definitely a thing on this game. You can see right there, the dry line is not there yet. Jeremy Gallagher now on the final stretch across the line, 15.902. Is that fast? I cannot tell you yet, because we'll have to see what the rest does.
Well, of course, we're not going to go faster than F3 and F5 because it's wet conditions, and we get to have a little bit of a benchmark on what it's going to be like for F4. It's going to be a while before we see it, actually. We got more drivers of completing their laps. We got Alexandro that just set a lap time on the wet, but we're already seeing the intermediates come at full force. But Paul goes up to the line, and you can already tell that the inters are faster already.
Yeah.
Paul sets a 1:17.930. So our theories are correct. So I wonder the ones on the full wet will go and switch to the inters. They don't have enough inters to play with. So if it rains in the race, they've got to use their tyres wisely. And you could be right that people might do multiple laps, which may be harder for us to track sometimes, but there will be some people just getting a feel for it. They may be quicker on worn tyres than a scrub set of tyres earlier on, but we'll see what happens. Jeremy is the fastest driver out there on circuit. Not by much though, which is very impressive.
Yeah, Giovanni Lanzoni just posted the second fastest time, about 0.2 of a second slower currently than Jeremy Gallagher. Actually, more than 2.5 tenths at the moment. We are following the other Giovanni right here, Giovanni Galliotto, on the full wets at the moment. I feel like he's already regretting his decision. Supply Raptor is only done a 1 minute 20.1. Feel like he's been on the full wets as well. It's still really busy out there. A lot of people still getting the feel out there on track, trying to find somebody who is currently going fast, apart from Giovanni Galliotto, but I believe he's the first across the line of those on a hot lap. No, it's Daniel Gottschalk, actually, other Mercedes. His teammate right there has gone fastest overall, 15.847, immediately defeated by, so to say, by Paul Adels, who goes even faster on an actual full wet tire, I have to say, right there. Look at that. The full wet there on Paul Adels' car is actually faster than everybody on those intermediates, which I think is really impressive.
I think, of course, what we don't know about these drivers is we don't know the fuel usage. There might be people that have just done one run, and maybe Paul's going to potentially go into the pits now. He is backing off a little bit anyway, so we don't know if he's proved our theory wrong, or maybe just put less fuel on the car. We'll have to wait and see. Multiple drivers are still doing multiple runs anyway, so we could see people on the Inters going fast. We've got Thomas Laminen going through the middle sector now. He's got a little bit of traffic to contend with right now, and we got, I think, certain drivers just moving out of the way. And we got Tyus Korsman, 1:15.327. He's the fastest man out there on circuit right now by, I can't do the maths, about 7 tenths. Well, probably less than that, about 4 tenths per second separating P1 and P2. You can see Thomas is struggling with the traction, but Aleski is not. 1:14.9.
Alexi Cavero, yeah, the first driver to go into the 1 minute 14. Can Damien Carril do the same? No, he can't. 15.887 only. Just good enough for P6. But there's still a long way to go. Less than 11 minutes remains. The track conditions are still appalling, according to most of these drivers, and they'll have to make the most of it. Alexander Dimas just comes in second place as Giovanni Kennis actually goes fastest overall right now, a 14.7. I have to point out there's another Dutchman right there, and he's now the fastest of the lot. Let's see, I believe there Abdullah Bulaish and Igor Pajazecki, who just came into P5 right there, 15.267. Just behind his teammate Abdullah Bulaish in P4 at the moment. Several drivers haven't set a lap time just yet. One of them was Balin Telekis, who's just posted the second fastest time, beating Alexi Cavero to the line right there, 14.8. Then Carlos Galindo, he's currently on his way, just headed through turn 4 right there. You can see him on the screen here in his Alpine, struggling a little bit to get the car pointed in the right direction. Sauber ahead of him. Hopefully the traffic will move out of the way in time. Do keep in mind that ghosting is no longer off. This game has been a little bit better in terms of slipstream and towing and all that stuff. He will not be hampered by that Sauber, therefore, as it moves out of the way. Just a few more corners to go then for Carlos Galindo, and then he'll be setting a lap time for himself as well. It's always useful to have a banker lap for yourselves to know what you can work towards. Giovanni Ken is still the fastest. Well, I believe there for a second that Carlos went too wide. He didn't though, and he posted the 8th fastest lap time, just ahead of his teammate.
Yeah, we could see the Alpines. Well, they got quite a bit of a gap, actually, about a 4 tenths separating them. But we got Carlos quite close to Korsman and Igor and Abdullah as well. And then we got Alexander, Aleski, Balint and Givano quite close together too. So it takes a small margin here around Austria, even in the dry. It takes a small mistake for you to be instead P1, but maybe in P10 or something. And don't forget, the top 10 at PSGL score points, and you do not want to be the one that's lower down in the grid in Austria, even though it's an easier place to overtake. But look at what Jeremy just posted, a 1:13.4. He's starting to get confident as we make our way through this qualifying session.
Yes, indeed. Watching his teammate right now, Jeremy Gallagher went almost 3 tenths quicker than Tias Korsman, still sitting in P2 at the moment. They are the first 2 drivers to barge into the 1 minute 13 limits. The track is getting faster. You can see the drying line having formed pretty much already. A yellow flag in Sector 1 for a Sauber moving out of the way. We see a lot of Saubers moving out of the way tonight, by the way. Chanakinchi then through turn number 3, trying to chase his teammates' lap time now on the intermediate tires. There's no more drivers, as you can see right here, on the full wets anymore. You can see the tire difference in terms of lap age. Supply Raptor now on the oldest intermediates at the moment, 15.8 for him in P14 right there with the Williams car. Chanakinchi though, slowest at the moment. I'm sure he's gonna improve big time. Let's see what the improvement is in Sector 2. That is actually a 1.6 second improvement right there. Not yet close enough to provisional pole position, but maybe he finds a load of time here in the final sector with only 2 more corners to go. Once again, a few people coming in to set a new, fresh set of intermediate tires right there. Coming through the final corner then, Chanakinchi invalidates.
Oh.
That's a shame. What would the lap time have been? A 1 minute 14.1. And that would have been, actually, P6.
That would have been a good lap time right there, but it's a common mistake people make, invalidating in the final corner. And as you can probably notice on your screen, the rain is getting increasingly lighter out there on circuit. It's not as heavy as it was at the beginning of the session, as Chanakinchi won't go again because he's invalidated again. But it is not as heavy as it was at the start of the session, so that's why the lap times are getting quicker, and that's why the Inters are becoming an increasingly more viable tyre for the ones on the wet. So watch out for more drivers as they're very keen to improve on their times right now. Thomas Landon being one of them. He's not set a lap time yet. He's invalidated on his last 2, and he just invalidated on this one. So that's commentator's curse number 2 for Jessica Bull.
I thought I was terrible at commentator's curse, but you're far worse.
Sorry.
No worries. His teammate Supply Raptor then improved to P10 now in intermediate tires as well. But there's quite sizable gaps, to be fair, between the fastest and slowest drivers. Never mind. Thomas Laminen was the slowest for a moment there and then went fastest overall. Improved by 5 seconds on his old lap. Jonas Orpel comes in second place right there. Have a 10th behind, pretty much behind Thomas Laminen at the moment. Thomas Laminen back on top. I'm not surprised by that. I'm not surprised by several drivers being really fast tonight. Jeremy Gallagher included, Tius Korsman as well. Giovanni Gagliotto, Alessandro Finn currently sitting in P8. I'm sure he'll find some improvements as well. He's currently stuck behind an RB car on his in-lap, I think. He's just said it posted his lap time a few seconds ago. It's a little bit difficult to find out who's on a hot lap and who's on an in-lap. We only know who's in the pit box and on an out-lap in this game, unfortunately. So there we go. Giovanni Lanzoni, first drive to go into the 1 minute 12s. And we've got a Sauber first and now a Sauber third as well. And it's anybody's game still. Alexander Dumas even faster.
We have a Red Bull at the Red Bull ring with being faster at the moment. And of course, Max Verstappen being one of the most successful drivers at the Red Bull ring. Lewis Hamilton being one of them in real life, of course. But there's plenty of PSGL drivers who have done well in the past around here. So I wonder if any of them are going to make their way to the history books. I think this was one of the races where we saw, I think, Jarno Otmir broke his headset at one point, which I found quite interesting. It was in a PSGL race, believe it or not. But I know Jarno Otmir has done very well in the past here at PSGL. Paul Aldovs, 1:12.4. The track is hotting up. It's getting quicker. Hardly any rain. Well, there is still rain, but not as much rain as we're used to. People are trying to find the best line possible now as we make our way towards the end of the session. The calm before the storm, Rob.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is going to be an exciting one. I cannot tell you for the life of me who is going to claim pole position here. Times are improving rapidly. We started with 1 minute 16s, and now we are at 1 minute 12s, and it's getting faster and faster. There comes Balin Telegis across the line, 1 minute 12.5. Then up next is one of the RB cars. I believe that's Igor Pajazecki. He goes even faster than Paul Adams. Never mind, there's Jeremy Gallagher going even faster than that. 1 minute 11.836. Absolutely incredible job by him right there. But I'm sure they can go even faster than this. We will not see the pole time of F3 being beaten tonight, obviously, but we'll definitely see somebody pulling in a magical lap from themselves, trying to go out as late as possible, and that actually might cause some tension on track with lots of traffic queues everywhere. So let's hope they can manage to go through all of the traffic safe and sound and set the fastest line possible.
I know in real life there's always been that debate where people are just slowing down in the fast lane when there should be a rule where you do speed up in the fast lane. Luckily in PSGL though, that they have to go as fast as they can, because otherwise the game will give you a penalty or something like that. So at least they can get going very quickly, of course. We have some drivers still out on laps, but we do have people that are just going to slow down a bit and go into the pits. We know in F1 24, in some tracks with conditions like this, the rain pretty much stops very quickly, but towards the end of the session, so people would have to pretty much gamble and go on, either stay out on inters and go for a set of softs. It doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like it on F1 25 around this track. It looks like it's going to stay inters for the entirety of this one, as we just see one of the RBs go into the pit, and I think we've got another RB that might go into the pit as well. But who's going to get pole? I don't know. We'll find out in the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Indeed, and the pressure big for Thomas Lang right here. He's on a hot lap, once again, 17.3 and 9.9. He's got a teammate ahead of him. That is, of course, being Supply Retro over there. He's on an out lap. He's not going to give his own teammate a tow here, but Thomas Lang is definitely feeling the pressure. He's invalidated several laps already, and now this is the one that he's going to pull it off with. Otherwise, it will be a serious issue, because that means he'll have to cool down, recharge the battery, and then hopefully be in time to try another hot lap, which is going to be difficult. Now, 2 minutes remaining. He's not even at the end of Sector 2 just yet. There he is, sliding a little bit through Turn 6, 49.926. That is quite rapid indeed. We might see him get very close to provisional pole, and that is something, of course, he's hoping for. He does not want to be at that cursed last position. So then, 2 corners to go. Past the pit entry lane he goes, then onto the final corner. We've seen quite a few drivers invalidate on the inside and the outside of the corner already. Across the line, a 12.5. That is good enough for P7, but he's going to have to hope it stays like that, because other drivers are coming out now and starting their hot laps.
Thomas finally have got a lap together, which I think is quite a relief. So he's going to hopefully make sure that he can keep up in the top 10. Drivers like Alessandro, Giovanni, Chanakinchi, I think they need to improve quite a bit if they want to get a good result. So they got to improve. We got Thomas that just improved to fastest with a 111.7. Pretty much 1 tenth shy. Jeremy is between Thomas and pole position. I know Jeremy, though, has got lots of traffic in front of him, and this is not good if he wants to set a lap. He's got to create that gap that he needs, but he's also got people behind him. He's got 2 Alpines, he's got an Aston Martin. It's going to be hard for him to create a gap at this rate. So for some drivers, they may have left it a bit too late going out.
Look at the absolute chaos happening at the start of Sector 3. Everybody's trying to find a gap. They're just slowing down one another. They're nearly going 3 wide into Turn 9. It's like a race happening in slow motion.
I know.
But it's wild, isn't it?
I mean, we would expect it at a track like Austria, to be honest. So some people are not going to get laps. It's like Monza 2019 in real life. But Jeremy did the right thing. And like, you know what? I'm going to try and get past anyway. Giovanni Ken is fast. Is on track at the moment. 111.3. Chanakinchi's gone 3rd. And Alessandro's gone 2nd. But Rob, take us through the last part of qualifying.
It's exciting. I saw Thomas Lang moving out of the way of so many cars. He had no option but to completely bail out. His qualifying is the first out of everyone to be over, and he'll be standing in P11 already. It was 7th a few seconds ago, remember. He's going to be P11 at best. But we've got to watch those drivers who can potentially go for pole position. Alexi Covero doesn't go for pole position. Daniel Gottschalk, though, we haven't mentioned him all session, but there he goes, fastest. And Belit Alikis goes straight over him into fastest. The lap time there. We can see the Alessandro Finn having bailed out, standing in P6 now at best. T.S. Korsman, that is Balin's teammate right there, going even faster. 1 minute 11.1. Many other drivers across the line. Giovanni Lanzoni, I believe, is next to do so. Where is he going to go? He goes into P7, 11.5. Then one of the Red Bull drivers, that is Alexander Dimas. He does go 1/100th of a second faster. And there is Paul Adels, taking it even closer to the 1 minute 10 limit. Can we see a 1 minute 10 lap time right there? Carlos Galindo goes into 2nd place. They've got an Alpine 1-2 at the moment. Is there anybody still on a hot lap? It's difficult to find out, but I believe Chanakinchi, no, never mind. He's coming back into the pit lane. He's bailed out. Alessandro Finn has done his hot lap already, and that means we've got an Alpine front row lockout. That's a first, I believe, to use those words together, isn't it?
If you're saying that is an Alpine front row, I don't think I would believe it, to be honest. But welcome to F125, PSGL, PC, F4. That's where you can get an Alpine front row. And qualifying at the end was absolutely insane. We had Chana Kinchi, who was 7th going into it, is now 15th. And we got pretty much the top 15 separated by 7/10. And the top 19 separated by less than a second. And then we got the top 2 separated by a few 100ths of a second. It's just incredible. And we have someone in the chat saying Paul the GOAT. He is the GOAT because he is the man to beat.
He is, and I wonder if he has got the same. I do not know the weather conditions for the race, but if it's dry, I hope he's got the same pace in there as he has in these wet conditions. But look how close it was, especially for a wet qualifying. This is as close as it can be. 36 milliseconds separating the top 2. Alexander Dimas only 1.5 tenths behind, 1/100th of a second ahead of Tias Korsman right there. Igor Paryazetchi P5, Bailey Tilekis P6, then Daniel Gottschalk in 7th, Abdullah Balaish P8, Damien Carril P9, and Givano Kenish rounding off the top 10. The rest of the grid looking like this with Thomas Lang. He was hoping to get off that last position, but it didn't work out. He couldn't get his final hot lap going, and I think that's what destroyed his hopes for a better position than that.
Yep, it was because the rain was getting lighter and the conditions were getting better, which meant that if you set a lap earlier than everybody else, then you're probably going to get the worst of the conditions and you'll probably be at the back of the grid anyway. That's why it was crucial. It was kind of like a one-shot qualifying, wasn't it, Rob, towards the end, where you wanted to be the last to cross the line to get the good lap in. It wasn't the case for some people because they either invalidated or they messed up a little bit because there was so much pressure on some of these drivers to get it right. But now we head to the main race. You can't see it at the moment, but the drivers don't have to worry about rain just yet. It's a completely dry start to the Austrian Grand Prix. So the rain is gone, completely dry setup. But as we said earlier, parc fermé's off, wet setups, bye-bye, dry setups, hello.
And there's another important thing we've got to discuss. We did that before actually the stream started. We were talking about strategies, and we've both done our research, and we are pretty sure this is going to be a 2-stop race. We've both seen drivers make the 1-stop strategy work, but the 2-stop is much more viable. So I've seen the drivers picking the hard tire option at the tire allocation menu before the qualifying starts. So that means most likely most drivers will go with 2 sets of hard tires instead of 2 sets of mediums. And I feel like either hard, medium, hard or medium, hard, hard is the way to go if you want to have a good chance in the race.
I agree. And I mean, if you want to try and avoid the softs, please do. The softs don't last long around here. And it could be an absolute nightmare. And I think we're going to see it a lot in season 40, where we're going to see you have free choice of tyre allocation if you're brand new to the F1 games. But on F125 in particular, they'll go for the hards. But Rob, over to you.
Yeah, there we go. Front row lookout for the Alpines. Let's see if they can hold those positions from the start. They at least start on the medium tires. And off we go for the first race in season 40. Yellow flag straight away. That might hamper some overtakes. But look at that. Alexander Dimas making short work of one of the Alpines already, as Carlos Galeno is forced into 3rd position. Red Bull up to P2. He would love to win here at the home race, technically, of the team right there. Red Bull going for the lead. And already a beautiful braking move right there by Alexander Dimas. And as he goes for the lead of the race, behind them a lot of drivers swapping positions left, right and center. Abdullah Balaish already down to P10. We can see right here the Alpines fighting as well, but a bit further back more things are happening. We can nearly see them 3 wide into the corner. There's Tias Korsman in a lot of trouble. He's getting squeezed by every single car in the area right there, and Alexi Covero comes off best as he heads into P8 right there. Supply Raptor fighting there with Abdullah Balaish. Oh, there goes somebody into the gravel. That is Abdullah Balaish losing even more position than he would have liked, and now he's in stone dead last. Can he hang on though to DRS range? I don't think he can. No, he's just lost it, and that is going to be a difficult one to claw back from. Thomas Lang then fighting there with Tias Korsman, who's also lost loads of positions since the race start. We can see there a Mercedes going slow. That's Giovanni Gagliotto there, going very slow indeed. Abdullah goes straight into the pit lane. Might have gotten himself some damage from the opening lap at the front. It's a bit quieter, but in the middle pack it was absolute chaos.
We thought there was going to be a mixture of strategies and people go on the hard tyres, but every single driver who started this race has gone on to the medium tyres to start this race. Am I surprised? No, because it's PSGL. Everyone goes for the same strategy, it seems. But Abdullah, because of his damage, has gone onto the hard tyres, so he's going to try and make the hards last for a bit longer than expected. Thomas Lamanen gets past Alessandro up into 12th spot, and with everyone on the same strategy, that's going to make passing in a DRS train quite difficult. It's going to come down to pure pace and setup. And if you race in the same track as in F124, it's a lot easier to pass with less dirty air. There's more dirty air on F125, which means if you're on a DRS train, you've got to think of very creative ways to try and pass. Maybe people may make a mistake potentially, or you got to go for a creative overtake. But the dirty air makes it more tricky. They got to be really, really smart about where they pick their battles and go for moves, because they don't want to be too close, because already you can see some drivers losing time just by being close to another driver. Thomas Lamanen, though, doesn't seem to mind, though. He's going to try and go for a move on Jeremy in the Haas.
Yep, and Jeremy is struggling to keep up with the top 10. The gap has already increased to 0.7 of a second, which in the league racing is absolutely gigantic. We can see that Alexi Cover, the other Ferrari, going for a battle as well, but we're watching this one at the moment. Thomas Lamanen goes ahead. We see Daniel Gottschalk bailing to Alexi in battle as well. Same goes for Damien Carew and Alexi Cavero once more. Damien Carew defending the inside, but Alexi wanted to have a go in turn 6. Decided to think better of it and stay behind for the time being. His problem, though, he's in a double Dutch Aston Martin sandwich, something he really doesn't like, because of those two are communicating together for sure to make sure they can get the Ferrari out of the way. Supply Retter apparently having some internet issues. I saw something in the Discord in the F4 chat as well. You can see him lagging in the background a little bit. Let's hope those issues get resolved. T.S. Korsman is, I was about to say overtake Giovanni Galliotto, but he's going into the pit lane as the T.S. is hoping to get back in DRS range. He's struggling to do so. 1.3 seconds clear, or behind the rest of the pack, I should say. We can see here Igor Pajazecki with Daniel Gottschalk close behind as well. It's difficult to look which battle to pick because everybody is so close.
I think with any PSGL race around Austria, you're always going to have a DRS train, and it's you got to be patient. But we got battle for the lead. We got Paul, our pole sitter, going for the move in towards turn 4, the place where we saw in real life Sergio Perez and George Russell came together. Lewis Hamilton and Alex Albon come together, and quite a few instances we've seen in PSGL as well in the past. But Paul got the move done. He was patient, and he's got the lead of this race back from Alexander Demas. And the Red Bull fans probably a bit disappointed about that, but if you're an Alpine fan, you're probably loving it right now. We got Jeremy closer to Thomas right again, but everyone's around about the 4/10, 5/10 mark. But I wonder if people have already used quite a bit of ERS already. I'm watching the other Alpine driver of Carlos. He's managing his ERS quite well. He's on 67%, 10% more than Igor behind, and Alexander has hardly used anything at all. We also got to keep an eye on fuel usage at all. I'm looking at Alexander's fuel usage. He's on the yellow, so he's going to hope there's a safety car to bring him back in this, or find ways to maybe short shift in corners to gain some time, because otherwise his fuel is not going to get him to the end of the race.
That might be a problem down at the end of the line indeed. We can see here Chen Akinci and Giovanni Lanzoni fighting for position. Chen getting ahead of Giovanni. Giovanni having a bit of damage to the front wing. You can see the front right end plate is missing, which is definitely hurting him in the corners. You can see him going there quite slow indeed. And Thomas Lang is now telling him to get a bit of a move on, otherwise he'll start to make the move as well. His teammate, Giovanni's teammate Jonas Orpel is not too far behind either. T.S. Korsman is still struggling to get into DRS range, now 1.6 seconds behind. This might help him a little bit, the struggling Giovanni Lanzoni right there through the corners, but he'll lose a lot of time again once the straight happens. And there he goes, he's going to try an undercut. The Dutchman is in the McLaren to try to get back with the pack. Two drivers have already pitted, Abdullah Boulaj and Giovanni Galliotto. I'm sure that was because of damage to the front wing, otherwise you wouldn't go in this early, not even with medium tires. I'm certain they are now, of course, on a set of hard tires. T.S. Korsman, as you can see, exiting the pit lane right now. The rest of them still stuck in that beautiful and very long DRS train.
Yeah, which is going to last a while, so I won't be surprised at some point people going for early undercuts to go onto the hard tyres nice and early. We could see people go on the mediums towards the end of the race. I will not be surprised to see that, to be honest. But it's got to be certain drivers will think for the early undercut very, very soon. Not quite sure when. I had it in my notes somewhere when the drivers are going to think about pitting. I'll just need to find them at some point. But we like to be surprised. It's the opening round of PSGL Season 40. Not many people have done 50% race on this game. So we're all in the unknown as Thomas gets past Jonas up into not 15th place because Giovanni has gone into the pits.
Yep, he's got a 10-second time belt to go with his damaged front wing. His race is turning into an absolute light nightmare. Speaking of people pitting for the new set of tires, from what I've seen last night in another league, it was around lap 8, 9 or 10-ish. Some of them made them last a little bit longer. One of them decided to go for the one-stop strategy, which somewhat worked. But usually we'll see the pit stops coming up within 3 laps from now on. And then we'll find out how well the undercut works. I can tell you, it's extremely powerful around this track. 1 lap can get you up to 2 seconds already if you do it really, really well. So that should be an interesting one to watch. They're probably looking at each other and looking in the mirrors. Who's going to bail out first and how soon will we follow? Which strategy will we pick? I mean, there's still so much to play for. You can see there Iker Bayezecki was having a thought about it. Or is he actually going for it? No, he's definitely not.
In the pits.
Yep, I saw somebody in the background.
Rob. Yeah, he's going for an early undercut. Damien's in. Thomas is in. Jeremy is in. Thomas in the Ferrari, that is. I always get confused which Thomas it is because it kind of cuts the names on this game. Hopefully, they will fix that at some point because it gets a bit frustrating for us commentators. But Ballint the first to jump the gun, and that probably got other people jumping the gun too. Let's see if it pays off for them. As Chana Kinchi, by the way, gets past Alessandro into turn 3, but Alessandro is going to have the DRS coming in at the middle of turn 3 in towards turn 4. Is it going to make a difference? Chana Kinchi saving, well, he's pretty much burning his ERS. He's harvesting quite a bit of energy right now, but Chana Kinchi holds on to P9. Great move of him into turn 3.
Yeah, but now he's got to clear a 2-second gap to the next car, and that might be a struggle and a half. There's 3 cars ahead of him, all towing off one another. You can see there Alessandro Fitti nearly going way too wide into turn 6, but thankfully he's managed to stay on track for the time being. Then the top 5, all still out on their medium tires. Which of them is going to bail out first and go to the pit lane? None of them yet, but the group behind, all 3 of them, decided, you know what, let's just go for it here. Alexi Covero, Giovanni Kennis and Supply Raptor, along with Chana Kinchi, are going for their pit stop. Alessandro Finnis decided to stay out for 1 more lap. Let's see their tire ages. All of them, as you can see, 8 laps old, and we are approaching that magic number 10, at which I think is the latest they should pit if they want to make the 2-stop work properly. Otherwise, it might potentially spell some trouble. Beta Telekis then now. We'll find out how powerful his undercut is going to be. He's back up to 7th. He's got no traffic. We can see some potential chaos starting to happen behind him. Some cars getting out on track. Some cars already out on track. And they are now with a beautiful mix of each other. And now Thomas Lammen is the Ferrari in the Aston Martin Cent, which is quite incredible how both of them have managed to do so. And he's now stuck in P9, but he might try and make the move here on Damien Carril.
That's not Thomas Lammen, and that's another Thomas. I get confused because they're both called Thomas. I do apologise that I've called different Thomases wrong. I only decided to fill in for PSGL this afternoon, so I only had a few hours to get used to the names. Anyway, Rob, more people are coming.
Yep.
Paul Adolf, our pole position man, has gone in. Igor has come in, and Daniel has come in. Let's watch Valiant, actually, who's coming towards the final corner. He was the first one to pit on to a set of the hard tyres. We're going to see if he comes out in front, and I think it's going to be quite a huge undercut for the McLaren driver. McLaren driver did win in real life, of course, and he is leading out there on track. A net P1, that undercut has gone from about a few tenths per second to 1.2 seconds. So if he's still out there, you're going to be in a spot of bother. We got 2 of the Aston Martins fighting. We got Daniel trying to get past Jeremy. For most people, Rob, it seems to me the undercut is powerful, but we got to move Damien past Thomas, and we can see Giovanni trying to get past the other Thomas as well. We got the RB sticking in the middle for good measure, but they're still going to go side by side in towards the middle of turn 5 and into towards turn 6. We now got Aston Martin, 6-7 right there on circuit with the Austrian Grand Prix. Igor's move
Wow.
on Thomas was brilliant as well. There's a lot of moves going on. It is crazy. And Carlos Roberts come into the pit.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with the Thomas. He slowed down a lot. So 3 cars have overtaken him in just half a lap. And Daniel Gottschalk is potentially next. Carlos Galindo has come in. Balin and Paul, unsurprisingly, all pass him. What about the rest of the cars? Where's Carlos Galindo? There he is, on pit exit, onto the track. Is he ahead? No, he is not. At least behind 1 Aston Martin, and maybe even 2, because the other Aston Martin has got DRS. He's gonna go on the inside. Where's the Alpine gonna go? He's gonna row right in the middle, and there's Igor Piasecki with a potential move on them as well. Yes, he does, on the inside there of Damien Carril. And now he's still got to bail out anyway, because Damien carried more speed come out of turn 3 right there. We saw a move up ahead between Paul Adels and Balin Teleki's. Paul is back in the lead of the race. The undercut of Balin was only temporarily. Paul Adels is definitely carrying a lot more race pace than Balin here in Austria, and they are approaching Alessandro Finn rapidly, who still has yet to pit. Alexander Dimas then comes in there with 10-lap old medium tires for his fresh set of hards, and of course he's going to fall back even further in the group. That might be a bit troublesome for him. He shouldn't have waited a lap longer, I'd say, than this. As Giovanni Kennis comes around the final corner. Same goes, of course, for Alessandro Finn, and Paul Adolphs has already passed the second Red Bull there. Into turn 1 he goes. The other Red Bull plays no meaningful part in this battle, at least. Let's see where Alexander comes out compared to the rest. Is he going to be ahead of them? At least he's ahead of the larger pack. He's not made the undercut for the others as powerful as I wanted them to be, and Alexander is still ahead for the time being, but for how long?
We've got the Alpine and the Aston Martins going at it again. Carlos just can't pretty much escape the 2 Aston Martins, and neither could the RB of Igor in P8 as well. We got side-by-side action happening in the background between the Williams and P12 and the Mercedes, but no can do. They stay with positions right now, but Carlos was so close losing a position of Damien. But Carlos just is looking so much better on the tyres, more grip it seems right now compared to the Aston Martin. But speaking of Aston Martin, he's going to try and go for an unconventional move in towards turn 8. And the Red Bull is losing a lot of grip, which has allowed both the Aston Martin. Oh, there's a bit of contact in the background, Rob.
Yeah, because Alessandro is an ancient tires. He wanted to help out his teammate and holding them all up, but instead he's got a damage to one of the Aston Martin front wing, and I believe that's Damien Carrillo who's victimized by the incident right there. The FIA might have a little look into that, but I'm sure Alessandro Finn, all he wanted to do is help out his teammate. His race is with somebody else, and he wanted to help Alessandro Dimas at least to 3rd place. It hasn't worked quite well, because everybody passed him before turn 9, and then his tires, the difference was massive, and now he's dropping back fast because he doesn't want to be in the way of anybody else. A lot of close battles happening at the moment. Look at the background there, the 2 Ferraris, the Williams and the Mercedes fighting over P8 right there. Thomas, Daniel Gottschalk, Supplier Raptor, Alexi Covera, all fighting their hearts out right now. Look at that, Alexi wants to get closer to his own teammate. He's got to pass the Mercedes first, and he does so in turn 6. As you said, a lot of unconventional overtakes, but once again, these are very brave drivers. They are in F4 for a reason.
Yep, everybody is in F4 for a reason. They're giving it everything they've got right now in terms of speed, which is really great to see. But, you know, there's some people that are starting to make more mistakes now as the tyres now start to get very warmed. Well, pretty much it's going to be difficult to warm up, it seems, right now. So, I mean, it's going to take a while for the hards to be at optimal temperature in order for some people to make the move. But I'm watching the Red Bull Alexander Dimas. He's 3 seconds behind the ones who made the undercut work earlier of Paul and Balian. Alexander is probably gutted that he didn't pit earlier. He's on the fresher rubber, yes, but that's allowed the likes of Giovanni, Carlos to catch up to him as well. Not what he wanted in this race, as Jonas gets past Tias up to 14th.
Yeah, I'm watching the chat in Discord, and Alessandro Finn says he's crashed, which explains why his AI has decided to go for another set of medium. Probably not what he would have wanted himself, but I feel like he's chosen the balanced tire option, which allows 2 sets of mediums to be chosen, so he will not have 2 sets of hard tires. But we do not know yet what the other drivers have done, because they've only swapped from the mediums to the hards. The question is, what tires will they use in the third stint? Will they use for another set of hards, or will they go for the mediums until the end of the race? Which might be a struggle. 2 sets of hard tires already is quite a stretch on a track like this in this particular game. We're watching a battle then further behind between Damien Carriel, once again Thomas and Alexi Cavera. Both Ferraris just blast past like the Aston Martin as if it doesn't exist whatsoever. And now Damien Carriel will get the DRS once again. But the Ferraris now can properly work together to hold the rest of the field behind and keep that P7 alive. What's going to happen here? Are they going to fight? No, of course they're not. For now, at least, they're working together properly. Supply Retro had a little bit of a thought about moving past Daniel Gottschalk. Doesn't work out quite just yet, and well, the big question now is, when will they go for the second set of hard tires or mediums?
That's going to be a tall order as to when we think it was going to happen. But we know with Ferraris being 10th and 8th, that's going to be very hard in terms of pit stops, because the double stacking on this game is not as bad, but it's still not very good if you want to double stack. Ideally, you want to have one person pit before the other, but there's one person that's going to be disadvantaged because of the overcut, and they're going to lose so much time due to people making the undercut. So ideally, you want to be a little bit further behind, but again, you want to gain points from the constructors. So it's very hard thing to decide in terms of strategy, but we know the constructors mean quite a bit for a lot of our drivers, as Daniel does get past Damien once more. That they're not giving up without a fight, aren't they? And we just saw the Ferrari switch positions. I would expect if they were to do the 2-stop, I would see most people go to around about lap 21, 22 at the earliest, or even lap 20 to come into the pits for another set of the hard tyres. I'll be surprised if people do the 1-stop. I don't think it's going to work personally, but we are seeing more people as they're bunching into the trainer, Rob, using up a lot more of ERS. But I'm watching Valiant right now. He's hardly used any. He's just picking the perfect moment. You could see that he's running none at certain parts of the lap, and then he's using overtake just as he gets in towards turn 2. And then goes to medium again. He's been very strategic with his ERS, only using it when he gets close enough to port and he's thinking, right, I'm going to overtake right now. He's picking his battles, which is really great to see.
Yeah, a patient drive from Balin Tilekis, and I'm not surprised. I know him to be a very patient driver indeed, and he's no different here in PSGL PCF4. Just waiting behind, saving his ERS, potentially saving his tires as well, because his are 2 laps older than Paul Adolph's. And Paul's definitely potentially going to have his hands full of a McLaren later down the line, depending on when, of course, they will pit. But I feel like Balin will dive into the pits as soon as Paul Adolphs does, just to make sure he can stay with him at the very least. A bit further back then, Alexander Dimas, followed by his fellow Dutchman Giovanni Kennis and Carlos Galindo in tow as well. The other Alpine has fallen behind a little bit compared to his teammate. They had a front row lockout, not anymore then, as Carlos Galindo has fallen to P5 already. 3 drivers so far with penalties. Let me show them real quick right here. Thomas there with 3 seconds. Same goes for Jeremy Gallagher and Thias Korsman as well. And that means they're going to have to struggle for the points at the very least. At lap 18 at the moment, which is exactly the halfway point. As it stands, Paul Adolphs leads from Balin Tilekis. Alexander Dimas 1.3 seconds behind. He's been closing the gap lap after lap. So I'm hoping that Balin isn't going to rest on his laurels for too long. Otherwise, Alexander will be all over the back of him. Giovanni Kennis and Carlos Galindo, of course, are following suit. Igor Pajazecki 3.4 seconds further back. He's on his own at the moment. He's got a chasing pack of many cars behind him, all the way down to P15, trying to catch up to him right there. Damien Carriel so far has been struggling with his broken front wing. He's been overtaken by many drivers already, including Igor himself. And now our supply Retter is edging ever closer.
Yes, I'm quite surprised, to be honest, Rob, that only a few people got penalties, because we know on previous games, Austria is penalty central in terms of people cutting the final corner. So they are keeping it more clean. I think a lot more drivers that make get impatient. There's quite a few people, Rob, that just come into the pits a lap earlier for 2 laps earlier than I thought it was going to be. So we've got Thomas, Damien, and Supply coming in for their second set of parts. That should take them to the end of the race, but the final 2 laps is going to be a bit of a struggle for them. I thought lap 20 is going to be the earliest, but people are going in as early as the end of lap 18. It's going to be a bit of a risk, but we saw the undercut work with the likes of Paul and Valiant up front as Valiant and Paul going for the lead as the McLaren driver starts as he needs to go on, and he takes the lead. Quite crucial as he takes the next round of pit stops. And I would expect actually the McLaren to pit the earliest because he's been on those tyres for 11 laps right now. So he probably saw the other drivers coming in. Will he decide to come in now? It looks like he's committing. Is he committing? Yes, he is. He's taken the right commitment line. He's going to take his stop, which I'm not surprised about, Rob.
Yeah, it does explain why he wanted to go for the overtake on Paul Adels. For the moment, I thought he was waken up by Alexander de Mas's sudden approach because he's now there. 2 became 5 in the fight for the lead, and now it's only 4. Balint is going for the undercut, and I feel like people are pitting this early just to make the undercut work. They've all realized how insanely powerful it is around this track. And if you can manage to do it with several others, you can just toe off one another and stay ahead of the other packs trying to chase you down, even if they pitted later and are fresher tires. So I feel like it's just a weighing of options. Which one did you prefer? Fresher tires as Jeremy Gallagher just drifts through turn 3 with Jonas Orpel in tow? Or would you rather prefer to go for the undercut? That's the big question they've got to ask themselves. Some of them decided that the undercut is better than fresher tires. Others have decided to stay out a little bit longer as Jeremy drifts through another corner. He's definitely not saving his tires anymore. He's absolutely destroying the rears on his Haas right there as he tries to stay with Jonas Orpel. One of the drivers I thought would be fighting for the win, just only 7th at the moment. And that is after several drivers have pitted for a second time. And I believe Jeremy Gallagher hasn't done so yet. No, he's still on 12-lap old hard tires as we see Iger Paisecki being the next driver to come in. Same goes for Jonas Orpel as Jeremy just barely is able to overtake Jonas as he entered the pit lane right there. And off he goes. Now let's see what he can do in clear air.
And on this game, I know tyre wear is an even more important factor because you can't push it for the entirety of the stint more like you can in F124 because the one stop could work. You got to manage your tyres through the stint, and there may be some times where you have to be forced to just pretty much save your tyre for some part of the lap, and that's why we'll see some drivers slow to start with after they've done the initial push, and then towards the end of the race, that's where we're going to see quite a few battles there. That's what happened in another league. Anyway, as we can see, Jonas trying to go for the move on fresher tyres compared to T.S. Korsman down in 13th. But don't forget the top 10 do score points, but we do still have the 3 TES drivers still yet to pit, by the way. As we've got Paul and Giovanni into the pits for their final stop, and that just leaves 2 drivers in. But you can see the McLaren defending for his life as he tries to pretty much attack Supply Raptor at the same time. But Supply Raptor, as I just said that, Rob, has left the session. He's disconnected.
Oh, I see some terrible news there for Jeremy Gallagher. He's got a 10-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That's going to absolutely destroy his race right there. And look at that, Damien Carrillo being brave in the final corner, overtaking the Williams. And he had no choice, of course, because Supply Retro is having issues all over the place tonight. That is bad news for him indeed. Thankfully, Damien was being able to get past safely. He's also replaced his front wing. You can see it's being quite healthy and whole again, as he is now fighting with T.S. Korsman and gets past quite easily. No problem for him at all. Jonas Orpel now next in line to get past the McLaren right there. The McLaren not having a great day at all. He's been disconnected already once at the start of the session. He was disconnected on the grid, I believe he said in the Discord. But he now sails back past the Aston Martin up to 11th once more. But it's out of the points. Chenakinchi is nearly 3 seconds up the road. He's got to try and close the gap with all the cars in tow, including Chen's teammate Jeremy Gallagher, now stuck with a terrible 10-second time penalty. Carlos Galindo then comes into the pit lane. Giovanni Kennis gets a 3-second time penalty as well. We were talking about how few penalties there were a few laps ago, Jess, and now they're racking them up.
It's just like they probably want me to shut up because, boom, I talked about there's going to be rain at some point. There was rain in qualifying. I said, hey, there's less penalties. Boom, Jonas just picked one. It's just like, You know, people are hoping for Myth Sky to come back next week, which he will, by the way. Massive shout out to Myth, by the way. He is, of course, missing tonight, but he's looking forward to covering F4 with you this season. A full Dutch commentary duo.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I am so excited to watch that commentary duo next week. I will be tuning in, of course. You can check F4 every week at 8 p.m. UK time. Same with F2. And, of course, you've got F3 and F5 on at 7 p.m. UK time. And, of course, powered by our title sponsor, SRC, the E-Series is coming back very, very soon. And boy, oh boy, I'm really excited for that as well. You got Nathan Richards and Corey Brooks in the commentary box for that one, and it's on every Friday. I think the qualifiers start tomorrow, but I'll need to double check that. But yeah, make sure you check the E-Series this season. It's going to be the biggest one yet. I think we got 7 esports teams, which means only 3 community teams. Well, pretty much only 3 spots for community teams with loads of teams signed up. It is going to be exciting, so make sure you're tuned in. But right now, we still got some battles to make. We got the Alpine going for it, and we got the Ferrari trying to get past Igor, which he does. Aleski up to 6th, but Portal is definitely chasing down the Alpine. And we've got Damien trying to get past Tiers, which he does.
Yep, no problem for him whatsoever. Now Iger is the one being a Ferrari sandwich. We've seen quite a few sandwiches tonight, in fact. A bit further back, Jonas Orpol is fighting Tias Korsman for P12 behind Damien Carril, but Tias has decided to fight back in turn 4. He's still got his nose on the inside there in the corner, and he's not giving up just yet, but he's got no choice but to bail out as they go into turn 6, because Jonas just had a bit more speed. Tias Korsman going wide due to the dirty, as you can see right there. It's absolutely massive on this game, as we mentioned before. Behind them, Giovanni Galeotto and Jeremy Gallagher with that terrible 10-second penalty. Alexander Demas comes in at long last. Of course, he had the longest first stint, so he had no choice but to stay out a little bit longer. He will now have the freshest tires by quite a margin. 2 laps is the biggest difference between himself and the next car with the freshest tires, one of them being Carlos Galindo. Alexander Demas comes out safely in P4, and he's going to lead a whole slew of cars towards the race lead, which is currently a solo driver of Balin Telekis. His undercut has worked perfectly, but he's going to be chased down by those on the fresh tires. Him being alone is not going to help him whatsoever, because they can all help each other with DRS.
Yeah, so we know in the last game, if you're not within DRS range, even if you're in front or behind, you're going to lose so much to the guys who are gaining on DRS as well. So I think Balin has got a lot of work to do to keep his lead, but it's still not over. We got a long season ahead, and we got about 11 laps to go of this race. And if we can keep this up, this will be a brilliant start to this championship for the McLaren driver, just like we saw in real life, of course. But I know Giovanni and Paul have something to say about that. Yes, Giovanni has a penalty, but if he can make a gap, then that means that he's only going to lose out on quite a few positions right now. He's got the slipstream on the back of, Paul's got the slipstream on the back of Giovanni. He's got the ERS to show for it. And he's got the straight line speed even without using hardly any ERS. So he's got the overtake, and you can see Giovanni just got the power as well. He's going to use the slipstream. He's going to take the shortest line possible, but comes to the outside line, and Paul, our pole sitter, slots himself into P2 of this race. His next target is to chase down his rival in the McLaren to try and get that race win. He's got 11 laps to do it. Yellow flag in towards turn 3, and do we have a safety car?
Yes, we do.
See a yellow dot. Yeah, safety car.
Oh no, that is terrible news for the drivers. I mean, what tire choice do they have left? They've only got soft tires, I'm afraid. They've used both their hard sets. They've used their mediums. So I feel like they've got no choice but to stay out. And you know what? They actually do. Nobody's going to risk hard soft tires on 10 laps to go.
Definitely not.
No, it was Thomas who just went straight on into turn 4. I do not know why. He was going very slow. He might have lost control of his wheel or throttle or something like that. A technical issue from his side. I believe there was no incident because nobody else seems to have slowed down a little bit. I do see some drivers, though, going to the pit lane. Was that Giovanni Galeotto without a front wing right there? I'm not sure. There's many others that were near Thomas's car coming in as well. They have decided to swap for tires. What are they picking? They do risk the soft tires, Jess. They've decided to go for it anyway. Let's see which drivers have made these choices. 2 of them have decided to go for the softs. Some of them have decided to swap to medium tires. Giovanni's tires were only 3 laps old. He pitted really early, remember? So his medium tires are not that old. I think that might be a seriously smart move.
That might be smart. Oh my goodness. I mean, for Giovanni, I think he's played a smart move. He's only been on those tyres 3 laps. He can get to the end quite nicely. I think he got damage, I think, from them as well. So that's going to be good. Thomas in 17th. Staying on 7-lap mediums is going to be tough for him. The ones on the softs now, that's going to be a bit of a gamble, because I'm going to try and look at my notes here to see how long the softs last, and I'm not even going to mention on it.
0.5 laps.
Yeah, 5 laps, and it's the optimal time for about 3 laps.
Wow.
So with not many laps to go, they're going to hope the safety car doesn't last. Well, it does last a long time, which is not going to be. So yeah, you're pretty much screwed, to be honest, Softs. So keep an eye out for Giovanni. But if it's on F124, it'll be easy to pass, right? But it's F125, dirty air's an issue. So Giovanni's going to find it a lot harder to try and get past on medium tyres. So for me, in my opinion, it's about track position, because most people are on hards, right?
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, his tire strategy is brilliant, but his track position is not helping. And not to forget to mention here, Jeremy Gallagher, of course, had decided to serve his 10-second time penalty, which is the reason why he pitted. He's now gone in again to go for a fresher set of soft tires. They, of course, haven't used any soft tires in qualifying because it was as wet as it could be. They've used inters and full wets even. So that means all those softs are at the very least completely fresh. And of course it's wise to pit again, because at least you'll have your soft tires last 1 lap longer. There will be at least 7 laps to go if the safety car comes in right now, which will not happen because not all cars are there. So that's helping Jeremy and Thomas out even more than that. And I believe T.S. Korsman might actually decide to do the same thing. He's seen Jeremy and Thomas do that because why not? And I feel like he's going to do the same thing. And look at that. Even Giovanni Galeotto, I believe, is going to come in once more. Yes, he does. That is very interesting. What tires then is he going to put on? I feel like it's going to be soft as well, because he's got no others.
No, I think that's the case for some drivers. They want to be on the fresh rubber, but they only have the soft left because they picked the harder option. That's the disadvantage, really, of putting the gamble on the hard strategy. Because, yes, if there's no safety car, that will be the best option. But it is more viable that there could be safety cars around it towards the end. So we'll see if it works. In my opinion, if I were them, that's a silly mistake to make. But you never know with PSGL. These are one of the fastest drivers in the world, pretty much, on F125. And we got us two in the commentary box. What we to know? So you never know. they could make it work, and they could prove us all wrong. I think we're just, as I just said, that safety car is in this lap. We got the McLaren leading the way ahead of the Alpine in second. Who's going to win this race? Well, we got 7 laps to decide it, and Valent is going to be leading the field away.
Yeah, behind him is a man who's got a point to prove. He was pole in wet conditions. He wants to win the race in dries as well. His tires are 2 laps fresher instead of the other way around. So he's definitely going to try and pass Bayland as soon as possible, or maybe at the latest opportunity, because you don't want to be ahead in Austria without DRS. That might be a problem for yourself. Bayland is still waiting to get going, but at long last, in the final corner, off he goes. Paul was awake, but Alexander Dumas was much more awake than the 3 ahead of him. And he's going to find an opportunity in turn 1 already. No, he decides to slot back behind because Giovanni carries a bit more straight line speed. Alexander, for the time being, still in P4. He's got by far the freshest tires of the top 5 at the moment. Behind him, Carlos Galindo. He cannot keep up yet. Alexander's got to make moves as soon as possible. There's 6 laps to go, including this one. And then it's all over. Behind them, Damien Carril making the moves on Chanakinchi, going up to 9th place. Those are the soft tires. Has got to race like their lives depend on it. And you can see already Giovanni going for the move on Supply Raptor. Supply Raptor, does he defend it hard? Well, he does defend it at least a little bit, but he's got no choice but to let them through. He knows that those tires will die very, very quickly. Before the end of it, he will be able to re-overtake them most likely, because the difference right now is far too big. At the front of the field, things have stayed the same. At the back, people are making moves on those red wall tires.
I think the ones that are a disadvantage is the last few cars in the train that's on hard, because you've got people on the soft trying to chase you down, but don't give up, because those softs are not going to last long. So if you're near the front, you have a huge advantage in trying to keep up with that at the moment. They're not budging. If I was Paul, do not go for the move until near the end of the race. Tiers, by the way, gets past Jonas up into 13th now. We can see Jonas is just sneaking behind. We've got Chanakinchi being passed by Giovanni and Jeremy as well. We also got moves happening in the background for third place. Alexander Dimas getting past Giovanni now. So Giovanni's cars not operating the way as it should. Alexander's on 3-lap newer tyres, and he's doing an impeccable job. We've got to change for the lead. Paul gets past Balian, and we also got, there's so much going on in the background, I don't know where to look.
Which battle do we want to follow? The one for the lead or the one with the soft tire users trying to claw their way to the front? Giovanni Galeotto is doing the best job of all of them, I have to say, as he's already in P9 now, behind his own teammate of Daniel Gottschalk. I wonder if the other Mercedes is going to make life difficult for the Italian Mercedes driver right here as they go into the final corner once again. They are making easy moves a lap ago already. Those moves are becoming fewer and fewer in between, but it looks like Giovanni's got a great run up into turn 1. Is he going to make a move there? No, of course he isn't. Thomas Lang comes into the pit lane to pit or perhaps retire from the race. Of course, Alessandro Finn is one whole lap down to the entire field, which is terrible news for him. Another soft tire user making a move. That is Thomas right there, going past Kanakinchi into P13, but their soft tires might die a little earlier than they would have liked. Ahead of them, Damien Carrillo and Daniel Gottschalk side by side, pretty much going into turn 4. Can Jeremy Gallagher benefit from this battle then? Whoa, there, a little bit of a tap from Damien Carrillo, front wing onto the right rear tire of Daniel Gottschalk. That means now Jeremy Gallagher and T.S. Korsman all over the back of him. He wanted to have another go there. The Dutchman in the Aston Martin is very, very feisty to try and get past Daniel Gottschalk right here, because he got a chasing pack of angry soft tire users behind him who want to get past ASAP. Giovanni Galeotto has been led past by his teammate, as you can see right there. He's now chasing a position into the top 7, but I'm afraid he will not be able to get too close to the lead anymore. There's 4 laps to go, including this one. We're on lap 33 right now. Paul Adolphs leads Alexander Demas on the freshest hard tires in second place. It's still anybody's game.
It still is, and I would say advantage will be Alexander, because we've seen on the last lap him making the move in the middle of turn 6, and it was very calm, and he was very brave in doing so, and I was very impressed with how he approached it as well. We almost saw the Aston Martin of Giovanni having to go on the McLaren of Baliant as well. So the top 4 all going at it right now, which is really great to see them doing a great job. You can start to see the soft tyres for some people starting to give up the ghost, which does allow the hard tyre runners to give it their all towards the end of this race. I can't believe this race has gone so quickly. I kind of wish it was a 100% race, because we're not ready to stop this race. There's still more action with only a few laps to go of this race. Who's gonna win this one out of the top 4? I have no idea. We also got Carlos in there as well. Aleski, if any of the top 4 or 5 make a mistake, the Ferrari could be in there. Igor could be in there as well. You can see Alexander is drawing in ever closer every lap, and is managing his ERS perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the easy choice to say Alexander Demas is going to win the race, because the tire difference between himself and the leader is 3 laps. But Paul Adolphs has been on top of it as well, hasn't he? He's been pole position. He's been very quick in the race. We can see behind there Giovanni Galeotto going for another move. His tires are still alive enough, but he struggles out of turn 3 already, and that means Igor Piasecki might just try and get the place back into turn 4, but the gap is a little bit too big for him to get the move done. That means Giovanni, at least for now, is safe in P7. The top 6 is getting ever closer, but the lead is getting further and further away from him. There's only a couple of more laps to go. Alexander Demas now all over the back of the Alpine, trying to force Paul Adolphs into a mistake and then try to claim the lead that way. Either that, or he's going to have to pass him on track with the help of DRS and his battery, but he's trying to charge as much as possible. You can see it right there on the steering wheel. It's almost completely full. What's Paul's DRS doing right there? It's also pretty much completely full. Thomas gets another 3-second time penalty to his name. Not his race tonight, unfortunately for him. With 2 laps to go, let's find out who's going to win this one.
Alpine versus Red Bull versus McLaren versus Aston Martin. And you can see Alexander getting the DRS, He doesn't care about him not having DRS heading towards turn 3 because he thinks he can do it on the next lap. But is it too little too late? Carlos thinking he can try and get on the podium. He passes Giovanni, but Giovanni's saying, take that back, Sunshine. That B4 is mine, as they make their way towards turn number 4. The Aston Martin, of course, having their first sort of upgrades designed by Adrian Newey's help in real life. Is that singling some pace around it on his car? I'm only joking. It's the driver skill and setup that's gaining those positions, because of course it's equal performance at PSGL. We're about to start the final lap of this race. F2 has just finished, but F4 is just about to end with a crazy final lap towards the finish. Alexander's leading for now, but can he stay there? Over to you, Rob.
Yeah, let's find out. Paul Adels, all he needs to do is pass either in turn 3 or turn 4. Which one is going to be the best opportunity for him? He's going to try and be as calculated as he can. Alexander Dimas is, of course, hoping he can get some DRS in turn 4. Slows down a little bit. Paul Adels, though, decides to stay behind nearly into the gearbox of the Red Bull right there. Good exit is all the Alpine needs right now. And now the move is going to have to happen. The slightly older tires on the Alpine will not be at his advantage. He's going to have to make the dive in the inside. He had a little bit of a look. No, he can't make it stick right there, and that means Alexander Dimas still leads the race here after a brilliant stint. He was the one who extended the stints, both of them the longest out of all drivers, and so far it appears to pay off quite well indeed. And that means only 2 more corners to go, 2 proper corners, I have to say. Yellow flag in the background. That's Giovanni on the soft tires, dropping down the order, fallen off badly right there. His strategy definitely hasn't worked, but it looks like the man of the night is not their pole sitter, but it is instead Alexander Dimas, the Dutchman in the Red Bull, who wins in Austria, followed by Paul Adels. Baden Teleki comes home in 3P3. The other Alpine, of Carlos Galindo comes home in 4th place. Alexi Covero P5, then followed by Igor Pajaszewski in 6th place. Daniel Gottschalk in P7. Giovanni Kennis, with that 3-second time penalty, tumbles all the way down to P8, just ahead of his teammate Damien Carril in P9. Then Kenna Kinchi in 10th place, and the best placed soft tire user of Jeremy Gallagher only 11th.
So, the safety car strategy, the best strategy was if you were near the front and you would stay on those hard compounder tires. So the 2-stop strategy was the way to go. Paul just didn't have the pace at the end. If it was on the last game, Paul would have probably got the move done easily, but it's that dirty air is a much more effective, and track position was key there. And we have a Dutchman that wins the race. It is not Max Verstappen, but it's Alexander. And we got the orange shirts of the Red Bull cheering in the grandstands because their man has won the race for Red Bull at their home Grand Prix.
Yeah, Paul Adolf did all he could from pole position, but it just wasn't good enough. He will have to take pleasure in 2nd place right there, and I'm certain he'll be somewhat delighted. At least he finished on the podium right there. Baden Teleki is from 6th all the way up to P3. Alexi Covero, you can see it right there behind Carlos Galeno from 11th, which is a brilliant job by the Ferrari that's there as well. We've already noticed the top 10 right there. Then down in from 11th and below, Jeremy Gallagher, Jonas Orpel, T.S. Korsman, Supply Raptor, Thomas, Giovanni Galiotto there, who spun out on the very last possible lap. He would have finished in the points otherwise, making him the best soft tire user after the safety car. Thomas Lang with the fastest lap in 17th. Alessandro Finn, 1 lap down, and the non-finish, of course, Abdullah Boulaish and Giovanni Lanzoni. Well, of course, it's been a while for myself since I've done a proper driver interview, but it will happen this time round. The top 3 will try to invite them: Alexander Dimas, Paul Adels, and Baden Teleki. Let me actually try and tag them in the chat for you guys, and we'll find out whether they're up for an interview.
Of course, we would like to speak to them, but it's not mandatory. Of course, they don't want to, but we always like to hear how they found the wet qualifying, the 2-stop race. How is it different, obviously, what you would expect in PSGL last season, where it was a 1-stop race? What do they think of the safety car changing a little bit, changing the complexity of the race? We don't know, but I think obviously Alexander had the pace as well. It was great to see some comebacks as well. I know Supply Raptor is one of them. He disconnected quite a few disconnectors, but luckily they were able to get back into the race. And for some people, they stayed on the hards, and if they went on the softs, they probably could have lost quite a bit of time. So it is going to be interesting, but we'll see. Because I have to say, the top 3 were definitely the top for the entirety of the race. We saw Paul and Ballind fighting for the entirety of it, but then Alexander was like, thank you very much. I'll take P1 away from both of you. And that's where he stayed throughout the entirety of the final stint. And it's just very, very impressive. What an opening race to start PCF forward. Miss Sky is going to be for an absolute treat when he joins you next week for round number 2.
Oh, absolutely. And I was about to say, Alexander made the overcut work, but of course the safety car helped him out a little bit, so it's difficult to say whether that is true or not, even if the safety car had not come out. But we're going to hear from the man himself, because Alexander is patiently waiting in the waiting room. He's being dragged in right here, right now. Hopefully, Alexander, you can hear us here in the commentary box. There you are. Let's do a little test first and foremost. Alexander, can we hear you?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Excellent. Well, first and foremost, congratulations and in Dutch gefeliciteerd with your victory here tonight in Austria. First round for Red Bull and yourself. You must feel delighted.
Yeah, it was a pretty steady race. I just only pit stops and one lap earlier overtake, and that was it basically. It was well sorted. I was kind of sad that it wasn't dry, so that I could show my quali pace a bit more, but I mean, the win is a win, of course, so I'm happy with that.
How early were you aware of the fact that the inters were faster than the full wets actually in qualifying?
I mean, the wets on this game are pretty shit. Let's say that. I mean, they
Apologies
are
for the
always
language,
faster.
everyone.
Inters are always faster, basically. So yeah, that's it basically. The inters are always faster, and the beginning of the laps with the 114s don't matter. It's getting a feeling, of course, of the rain, and then then the final laps only matter. So yeah, the inters are always faster basically than the wets.
Yeah, what was your approach to the race? Because you're probably aware of the two-stop, but you made your stints last longer than everybody else, and that one worked out for you.
Yeah, it was medium hard, of course, but in practice already with VNT practicing with my mates, I already was like way better on tire wear, So if I could extend even more if I wanted to, but that would be, I think, a bit too much and for two stops. So I mean, just extending longer than these guys, like 2 or 3 laps, is enough to get a good tire advantage. And then also driving, I think I would drive better with the tire wear as well. So I mean, then it just makes really easy, and you don't even notice the dirty air anymore. And then it's kind of free win then if you have better tire wear.
Yeah, it's a big factor in this game, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's if you don't have the tires, you're not gonna win at all.
Jess, anything from you?
I just like to say well done on getting the first win on it and on F125. How are you finding this game compared to the last game on F124?
I mean, it's a big improvement. I feel like I'm way better on this game than last game. So, I mean, just keep winning, I guess, and then we'll see.
And of course, the next race next week, I just looked at the calendar and it is Jeddah, quite a technical street circuit. How are you feeling about that?
Jeddah is one of my favorite circuits, not if it rains. So we'll see what happens then, of course.
So you heard it here, folks. Alexander likes this track, and Jeddah, but he hopes it doesn't rain. He's going to hope that I'm not in the commentary box. That's the end of my questions, Rob.
I mean, Jess would make it rain even in Jeddah. With all the commentating.
Even if I'm not in the box.
Thank you so much, Alexander, for joining us, and enjoy the first victory here in F4 this season.
Thank you.
We've got somebody else waiting in the waiting room as well. It's our man finishing in P3, Balin Telekis. First and foremost, congratulations. For a few moments, it looked like you were quite safe out there in the lead of the race, and then there was a safety car. So, first things first, how do you feel with P3?
Hello everyone. First of qualifying, this was my first qualifying in the rain, and it was a bit difficult, but have been pole. But it was good, and the race went well. The strategy was good. I wasn't happy by the undercut, but I was happy, and yeah, the strategy was good, and could have been happy with with the win, but I'm happy with the podium too. And yeah, Austria was one of my best track in the schedule, but I'm waiting for Jeddah. Is really happy.
You're not the only one who likes Jeddah better than Austria. But I was wondering, because you were one of the first to come in for your second set of hard tires. Was that because you felt like the undercut was more powerful than fresher tires?
Yes. As I think the undercut is really strong in this game, and if the safety car is not going in, maybe I can win the race. But yeah, this is the luck and unluck. So yeah, I'm happy with the podium.
Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes things are as they are. Jess, anything from you?
Well, we already talked about Jeddah, and we already know that you like this track as well. So we're not going to go into that. But a really good race from yourself, of course, only the first round of the season. How are you finding F1 25 in general? Do you like it compared to the last game?
Maybe in this game, Jeddah is better in this game for me than the F1 24.
Ooh.
So yeah, I'm going for the pole. Of course, in the qualifying and the race, win in the race.
Oh, so you're saying that Jeddah is better than F1 24? Jeddah's better on F1 25 than 24. That's given me a bit of hope when I race there in another league. But there we go. Congratulations, by the way, on another great performance. Rob, that's enough questions for me.
All right, Balin, thank you so much for joining us. And despite everything, I hope you can enjoy third place.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we will not have our second place finisher, Paul Adels, in the commentary box with us tonight. I saw him being offline on Discord, so I don't think he's seen our little tag for an interview. So that means, Jess, we've come to pretty much the end of the stream. We'll see that you can see the calendar already being on the screen for a little while. And obviously it's already known, but Jeddah is up next week. One of those tracks where it never ever rains. But maybe it does this time around. You never really know. They might have just jinxed themselves, those drivers have. After that, it's Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. Another fantastic track race around. Then followed by a break week at the end of July. Probably for the best. It might be very hot by a time of year. Followed by Imola, Britain, Hungary, Bahrain, another break. Texas, Japan, Vegas, Brazil, Mexico. All in all, I'd say a fantastic calendar here in Season 40.
Yeah, I think I was saying at the top of the broadcast that I really like this calendar. There's a lot of tracks. If I was racing on it, I would be quite good at. Of course, you've got Jeddah that's very technical. Belgium is one of the most iconic tracks on the calendar. It's a shame that it's alternating from like 2028 onwards, but there we go. I won't talk about it too much. Imola, of course, it's going to be the last time that's going to be on the F1 games. So we've got to make the most of it the next few seasons. So I'm glad that's on the calendar. Of course, you're going to have Silverstone on a PSGL calendar. It's the home of British motorsport. It's happening in real life as well. And I very, very excited to see how that turns out. And of course, we've got technical tracks such as Hungary and Texas. And of course, I'm a bit surprised we finished at Mexico, to be honest. But that's an interesting end to the season. But you know, it is a really good calendar, and we'll see how the drivers can contend with it. And just because they may have won Austria, could they win most races this season? We'll have to wait and see, but we'll only find out in about 11 weeks' time.
Yes, the first moves on the chessboard have been made tonight in Austria. Wet qualifying, dry race. We've seen who can cope with both circumstances best and who might struggle in one or another. We'll have to find next week which driver is going to be quickest in Jeddah, which is an entirely different beast indeed. For now, from the both of us, thank you so much for tuning in here in PCF4. It's been a brilliant race around in Austria. Great opener for the season once again. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Same place. Wow, I'm struggling for words already. That's how impressive this race was, actually. Same place, same next time, next week. We'll see you very soon indeed. Until then, goodbye.